Welcome to Yellow. My name is Neil and we are at the beautiful Onyx Resort in Bali. We are media partners with XFounders and we are covering their 4-week boot camp with founders in the crypto space. We are here at the XFounders Bootcamp, Season 4 in beautiful Bali, and it's my great honor to be joined by the CEO, the man, Nelson. Thank you very much for your time today. And I just want to start off by saying it's been an absolute honor to be invited here. Thank you for inviting Yellow to this amazing event. It's only been a week, but I've learned so much chatting to the founders, and thank you very much for that.
Very glad to have you with us, both you and Diego. Diego, if you're watching this, hi. Really glad you guys got to join us, and we got to share this not only with you, but your platform, your audience, your community. Really happy about all of that. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, thank you. So Nelson, I'm going to put you a bit on the spot. So we had a founders conference here. So we're going to talk about XFounders, we're going to talk about you. But give us your 30-second pitch, your personal 30-second pitch, as if about you.
About me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Nelson. I believe in giving to people. I'm a people pleaser. Here's a hook for you. I was bullied as a child, so being an act of service to others is really important to me. I like to be liked, and I found a great medium to do this is by giving to others. At the end of the day, if I can bring you something and say, I made this for you, that's what makes me happy. And what better place to do something for others than to build an accelerator that helps startup founders like you guys watching build something of their own. So you win, I'm happy at the end of the year, so that's me.
Amazing. I can see you've done this before, so.
Haven't spoken about being bullied on camera, so that's a first.
We can get to that later if you want. But before we get into your story and more about you, I really enjoyed your talk today, by the way. It was very interesting. I'd like to, there's a few little points about team growth and development. I won't share all your secrets, but I've got, it sparked a lot of questions from our side, which I'd like to talk about. But maybe just an overview on XFounders and what makes this bootcamp so special.
Very good. So, and I can talk trash about other accelerators because I've worked for them. Myself and the other co-founders, Feder and Fazil, we both bonded over the shared frustration of boot camps not really delivering value. So typically what you get is hyper predatory accelerators taking you like 8, 10, 12% equity for boot camps that happen online. So a bunch of tiny little Zoom windows twice a week for 6 weeks. Mentors who don't really mentor, they shill their projects at you at the end of the day. They promise you 30 VCs for the demo day. You get there, it's like 6 people, half of them with their cameras off, so you don't really know if investors, quote unquote, are decision makers or not. And then they're running for like 8% minimum. We don't believe in this model, so we decided to do it the back-breaking way for us, which is everything is IRL. Offline, in-person boot camps where for 30 days, 10, 12 startups, they fly over, they spend the whole month together. Mentors fly over. They don't spend 40 minutes talking at you, but 3 to 4 days with you. They have their workshop sessions, they have one-on-ones. You pull up these people for breakfast, open up the laptop, you workshop your issues with them as well. The investors fly over. They don't spend 30 minutes at you behind a closed camera. They spend the whole month, weeks with you, doing due diligence. And so many investors at the end of the day invest because they like the founder, that this is also huge for their own decision-making process. So we make it backbreaking for us, as you had a chance to observe, but the value-adding way for everybody else. And that, I would say, is our value proposition, on top of which we have a media arm that shoots content throughout the whole month and puts you on YouTube, puts you on all social media with an average reach of 250,000 viewers per episode for our reality show. So you have this first wave of acceleration during the bootcamp where you get resources, funding, networking, co-creation. 6, 7, 8 months later, guess what? Reality show comes out. It's hundreds of thousands of viewers for your story, your product, your narrative, and that no one else is offering. We're nothing like Shark Tank or similar programs, for example, where people forget your name as a founder the moment you walk out the door, because guess what? They've known you for 3 minutes only while you do your pitch. In our format, you give you 10 full-length episodes where people have an opportunity to get to know you and fall in love with you, and that nobody else is doing.
Absolutely, and the way that you do it, what I'm seeing, I mean, you mentioned a few points there, but the doing it sort of the other way around, and the sheer amount of effort that I can see here and the care, it really the attention to detail, putting on something like this is a hell of a lot of work, and your team has just been amazing. So having that reversed engineered approach and spending so much more time with the VCs, I can see is of huge value to them. So I've actually got a bit of data to give back to you, and I've interviewed maybe 13 or 14 of your founders here. And I asked them, because I wanted to give you a bit of feedback. I asked them, what is the one thing that they've learned at this boot camp? So I'm going to ask you, what do you think their answer was? And then I'm going to give it to you.
I would say it's something around the irreplaceable value of IRL connections and bringing the humanity back to your business growth.
You know your audience very well.
Really?
You know your
Is
audience
something
so well.
along-
I was hoping they'd say, oh, I enjoyed the tokenomics, or I enjoyed the, I don't know, mechanics of business, or how to grow a team or something. But their number one point they made, 99.9% of them, was they valued the connection and the introductions.
There you go.
That's exactly what you've just said, and what I found.
That makes me incredibly happy. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That made my day. That piece of data made my day. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm impressed that you understood that, and also what you just mentioned before about that personal approach. So it means that you're obviously doing the right thing, because that's what you. Those are all the points you've mentioned before. We're actually all tied together in their response. So
I'm so glad. And again, if we're hitting that mark, it's not by chance. It's by design. I mean, it's our 4th boot camp. We've become good at this. This bootcamp, we've expanded to like a pop-up city concept where we're not just having like 30-something people like we had in El Salvador in the summer. We're having over 100 people come and go throughout the month specifically for that. So you don't imagine the payoff that it is to hear you give me this feedback 2 weeks in. It's like, it's worth it, you know? So thank you. Look, it means more than I can express. Like, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I'm so glad I'm just passing
that
the
it's
data.
connecting with them, you know? Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm just
Awesome.
passing the data on, but it was just such a fascinating thing. So I asked all 16 of them the same question, and it was the same answer. And at the end of the day, we're in this chaotic Web3 world. I like to say it's a combination of Wall Street meets Vegas meets Boswell Walkie Circus. But at the end of the day, no matter how complex or crazy it is, it's actually about human connection at the end of the day. And it seems like you're capturing that and building the program around that very, very well. So on the note of connections, and your talk today about building teams and your experience with building out, working for massive businesses in the HR department and mentoring people and coaching people. On the point of connections, which you just mentioned, I'm not going to give the secret sauce on your talk because I've got so many insights.
Privileged for your audience only. No holds bar. You can share everything. It's more than fine. Or I'm happy to share anything with your audience. It's more than fine.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to focus on a particular point. So we're speaking connections, and one of the things that I've found working in businesses is that, and I'd like your expert opinion on this, but I find that the best way to have a cohesive team and to have a team moving in one direction and a happy team is to align the values of the staff member or the employee with the values of the business. Now, would you say that's a fair statement? And if so, how do you go about doing that?
Very good. I would say that's a contributing factor, not all that matters. 2 things here. One is usually very easy to grasp to the founder mindset. The other one is not, for the nature of the topic. So for sure, aligning your team's values with your own values or with the businesses or the project's values is huge. The value alignment is what's going to make people give that extra 10 or 20 or 50% above the 100%. That's what's going to make them take your call at 11 p.m. when they're with their family having dinner. That's what's going to make them like take a call from a customer at 2 a.m. because it's important to close that. That's what's going to make them care as much about how much runway is left in your project as much as you do as well. So it's great to give it the 110% and to keep it aligned. And I do want to highlight this. The vision that you align and the culture that you align is not what you inspire. This is also something I shared today. It's not what you so you don't align vision, you don't align culture by what you communicate you expect. You don't align culture by telling people that we share enthusiasm for learning, or we share alignment of vision or team spirit. Culture is defined by the things you tolerate. by the lowest possible bar of the things you tolerate, that's where culture aligns. That's why toxicity, that's why laziness, that's why not giving it 110% is so dangerous and contagious in a team. It's always what you tolerate down here that spreads as culture, not what you communicate you expect up here. So when you talk about aligning vision, as a founder, it's important to understand it's never about what you tell your teams, come on guys, this is what we expect, this is our vision, game on. It's about what you tolerate down here. It's about people communicating to you in public that they've successfully failed delivery milestones. It's about the time it takes people to circle back to you after you've made a request to them. It's the tone in which they have a meeting together at the 16th hour of a 16-hour long day. The things you tolerate down here, that's what spreads as culture and as vision. This is usually easy to understand for founders. What's typically not as easy to understand, but equally, if not more, as important when it comes to aligning vision, is the founder's own expectations. Your employees chose the employee life. They chose not to be founders. They chose not to live 24/7 around a startup or a project. As uninspiring as this may sound for the founder mindset, it also needs to be respected. You're paying this person same salary month on month for the same output and same commitment. For you to pay them the same salary every month and not give them stakes in your company, but expect them to pick up that phone at 2 a.m. is unrealistic and, to be honest, unfair as well. You chose this life. It's your company. You own equity in it. Your employees do not. So this is something that even founders need to manage about their own expectations. You chose this stressful life of not sleeping at night because you have a 3-week runway. Your employees are entitled to not living with this stress because they chose to take a job. You did not. So this is also something that is important for founders to also align about their own mindset is, yes, it's important to instill vision, to get people to go 110%, but understand they don't have stakes in it. If they don't have stakes in a company, they don't have stakes in a company. Why the hell would somebody commit to living on the same schedule as you, to not having holidays with their wife and kids, or picking up their phones during their holidays for your company, if at the end of the day you have stakes and they have not? Why the hell would they agree or commit to this? And if they don't, you need to respect it. Because often it's very easy for, we're a startup mentality, to cover a lot of authoritarian dictator impulses, and stress and urgency and anxiety are also the first things that a founder imparts in their team under the guise of sharing the vision. So come on guys, we're sharing the vision, we need to reach this milestone, we need to reach these goals. Yeah, for you and your stakeholders and your investors, they're important. I get paid whether or not I do this. I'm a fucking UX designer. Why should I give a shit if I don't have stakes in this company? So vision isn't only about elevating everybody to your own standards. It's also about you as a founder adjusting your expectations to what is the reward point to your team when you're asking them to share the vision. Like, are you giving something in return, yes or not? Often, you're not. You're just asking them to give up holidays, to give up sleepless nights for basically the same salary. And this is also something that is not as intuitive for founders and often sounds uninspiring, but you need to understand they chose the employee life, you chose the founder life, deal with it as well.
It's such a refreshing outlook because you get this, your work should be your passion, and you've got to align your life around work. And it's often, employment is often viewed like that. And you don't actually consider, at the end of the day, it's about choice. And the risk and the choice to start your own business on the founder's side should rest with him. And we often don't think about, actually, hold on, this guy chose to do a job. You know, it could be a mother, it could be someone who lives outside of their work. And it's a very refreshing view to have. And I think something that founders also need to bear in mind, because we do get passionate about what we do, and sometimes that gets abused, or not even intentionally from the founder's point of view. It's just the nature of the work. But 100%. For a founder to bear that in mind is amazing. And when it comes to things like vision, how important is clarity, A? That's my first question. And secondly, when you have a multi-founder team, how do you align the founders to have one vision and to walk in one direction? Because often founders can walk in multiple directions, and that actually causes confusion and a lack of a waste of resources and time. How would you, as a consultant or as an advisor, how would you align the vision of the founders, for instance?
Very good. So on the clarity topic, for me, I would say the most important, how to phrase it, not value, but variable to consider in any business. Different people will give you different values, but for me, it's accountability. You can be a founder without clarity. You can be a founder without a vision. You cannot be a founder without accountability. Again, you chose that life. I started one of yesterday's session with having all of the founders sitting down, facing the audience. So they would know, even if they're not facing the people behind them, they should know there's people watching their back. There's people behind them watching them. So do feel paranoid about it. You should be aware, acutely aware that there's people looking at you and to you for accountability. And only after they realize this, I turn them back and facing myself. So accountability for me is a super huge point. This touches on clarity because to me, one of the best tools to handle accountability is the accountability triangle, where on each one of the three vortices, you have clarity, as you mentioned, capacity, and consequence. So clarity is the ability to understand what is expected. Capacity is the ability to do what's expected. And consequence is the ability to deal with the consequence of not delivering. And usually when accountability fails, one of these three or two or all three of the vortices are missing. So clarity for me is huge in a sense that it's one of the three pillars that supports the most important thing for me about being a founder, which is accountability and being able to deal with accountability. On the topic of then how this connects to my experience in managing founders, having different directions. If you have the benefit of having a co-founder, first of all, you don't need to have a co-founder. For me, the order of preference goes good co-founder, no co-founder, bad co-founder. So having no co-founder is better than having a bad co-founder. So that's one. In my experience, like consulting, advising for startups, the quick hack that has helped everybody in figuring it out when two co-founders have split directions is don't make the decision in which direction you go when you have the decision to make. You agree on it before a decision has to be made. So we go back to compartmentalization. So when you're both chill and you're having a beer or there's no urgency to make a decision at hand, you agree on who's accountable, and this is why I started by mentioning accountability. You agree on who's accountable for what verticals in your startup, for legal topics, for the tokenomics, for compliance, for then people management, for fundraising, for the strategic direction on testing new products. Who's accountable for what verticals? And you reach a consensus without the urgency of a decision at hand. You reach a consensus of who is the ultimate accountable owner of each one of the verticals. And then when there is a decision to be made, you fall back into the agreement you made back then. Because if you were able to agree back then that between you and I, if there's a decision to make on the tokenomics, I succeed to you and I trust you to make the decision on this, I should be able to agree to this principle when there's an actual decision to make. And it's not emotional and it's not urgent and I'm not coming from a threat or an emotional or a short-term vision ownership approach to it because I want something to happen. I can fall back into when I was calm and having an unemotional decision about which one of us two is better prepared to handle this particular vertical, I should be able to fall back into this decision. So this is what's helped founders I've worked in the past, and typically where my advisory goes is have the verticals each one of you owns clearly defined before there's the urgency of a decision to make, because then it's going to be emotional. Because then you're not chasing rationality and you're not chasing a decision, you're chasing an outcome. Mm-hmm. And if I'm trying to take over a decision, it's because I'm thinking I want this outcome. Mm-hmm. And I'm not able to think about the decision-making process. Whereas if you and I are sharing a beer and I'm not thinking about the outcome immediately, I can much more likely and much more rationally agree, you know what, yeah, you are better prepared to handle like the legal topic. So, let's do this. Whenever a decision comes, you handle that, I'll handle something else. So my recommendation would be have it very clear between both founders who handles whose verticals. Decide this when there's no decision at hand to make. And then when there is a decision to make, just fall back into the agreement you made back when you were both pretty chill and not feeling the urgency of chasing an outcome.
And that falling back to that agreement you originally made, that's almost like setting up the constitution, I would imagine. In other words, having that...
I love that.
Having that strategy very, very clear from the beginning. And often that's also missing. That business plan or that strategy or that what are we and who's our target market. And if you plan that early on enough, I think then what you're saying is it's a lot easier to actually rest back on that decision rather than make decisions based on outcome.
100%, because when you're chasing an outcome, you're not thinking about the process, and processes are important. It's very easy also for startup founders to shy away from anything process because it sounds corporate and it's, corporate, I don't like this. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth to even speak the word corporate. But there are good lessons to take from having processes and procedures installed. It's something you can follow. It's about having a principle so you can make it unemotional. Otherwise, it's very easy for you to make short-term vision decisions when shit's on fire, and it's anxiety and stress imparted onto you as a founder unnecessarily. And guess what? When you have a team, that audience is watching you, burning a hole behind your back, whether you're looking at them or not. But they're always there. And they're always commenting on their Discord private channels. What the fuck is this guy doing? He has no idea what they're doing. Look at the two co-founders fight just right in front of us. Who the fuck are we putting our careers in the hands of our trust fund? So understand people are watching. And if it's not your team, it's your investors. Like everything you're doing is wall. Work out loud. You always work out loud more than you're aware of. So there's always somebody watching, and everything you do sends a signal, whether of trust or of distrust. So if you can have a huddle between you and your co-founder and align and define processes, so at least you have a unified message to your teams or stakeholders or whoever is watching you, then why wouldn't you want to do that? It gives you more security. And if you don't know how to do that, resources are abundant. Get an advisor, get somebody to help you go through that process, because the last thing, so often founders accept its startup life to go through fire and to go through this like uncertain path and to reinvent the wheel every time they have to do something. And it's unnecessary. It just takes a good couple of conversations for you and your co-founder to agree what's the MVP approach to a process, and then you build on it. But having a shitty version of a process that's going to build onto something good every time you go through a cycle is better than to just assume, oh, this is startup life. We don't have processes. Why not? Who told you don't have processes? You should be building towards processes, so you build on security. And it just starts sometimes with collecting the lessons learned. So we went through a fundraising round. We went through an outreach to potential investors round. How did we do it? What did we learn? Start collecting lessons. That builds onto a process. That builds onto you communicating to your team how you're going out to doing this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're putting yourself through unnecessary stress and strain, and that gets communicated as anxiety to your team. So 9 times out of 10, by going at it as if it were the first time, because we're a startup, you don't have to. And it's a necessary anxiety for yourself and uncertainty for your teams.
Absolutely. And I liked what you said about having the eyes on you all the time. I mean, these founders, it's such a tough life. It's almost like the emperor with no clothes on all the time. You're like naked all the time, basically. Yes. I mean, that's the cold, hard reality of entrepreneurship. And that's what makes it so, I suppose, attractive and challenging for the crazy that start that. So Nelson, when it comes to making decisions, rank accuracy, speed, impact, and time, 1 to 4.
I'm not trying to negotiate the answer, but I would say 1. It depends on the stage of startup you're at. For sure it changes if you're pre-seed, if you're seed, if you're Series A, Series B. But I would say accuracy, impact, speed, and time.
Accuracy, impact,
speed, and time.
Speed and time. Okay.
Yes.
It's interesting.
That would be my personal barometer.
Yeah. It's interesting you started with accuracy. Sometimes I look at business like a bowling alley, and maybe it's just my nature, I'm perhaps not so precise in nature. I'm not engineering in the way I think about things. But to me, I really value momentum. And I always feel like, okay, if you're a bowling ball, then just move. And if you get hit, with the guardrails, and move in another direction, which means it's not quite focused on accuracy. But I suppose with what you're saying is, if you spend the time and you have your objective quite clear, you can actually go straight for the pins, then hit the
That's
guardrail.
my thinking.
But,
if you're accurate the first time, that forgives speed and time being farther down in the priority list. And if you're inaccuracy, I guess, is important for both impactful and less impactful things. So that should come second in my mind.
Yeah.
But again, if you're accurate and you get it right the first time, that forgives slacking a little bit on speed and time. I would say. So this is kind of this would be my order.
Yeah.
But I would understand also if a founder is more focused on speed, for example. I think this speed is probably coming up high on a lot of
especially in the crypto market.
Yeah, I get it.
And earlier you mentioned about tolerance, like your culture is what you tolerate.
Yes.
I see you can be very tough with the founders, and I think that's very, very good, because a lot of them perhaps hear what they want to hear all the time. And I know even, in businesses where it's the staff are often too scared to say no, let's say. When it comes to, let's call it tolerance, or let me rather rephrase this, the chain of command. Should a business be run like a dictatorship at the end of the day, ultimately?
Yes.
I like that answer.
100%. Coming from a place of accountability, again, your startup is a reflection of you. That's your gut feeling, that's your intellect, your personal style, your qualities, your insecurities. Whether you succeed or fail, it's up to you. So you might as well not offboard responsibility. Why go through voting? Why make it a democracy? Often you're just pussyfooting around taking responsibility. You're offboarding responsibility as well. Your investors won't care for a minute to hear about, we tanked because I allowed my CTO to spend 90% of his time on R&D instead of actually pushing product to production. They don't care. So if your startup's going to be a reflection of you anyway, why not take responsibility and own it? Take that bitch by the throat and grab it and make it yours, for good and for bad. So 100% it should be ran as a dictatorship, because at the end of the day, people are going to look to you for a successful exit, or for a $1 billion unicorn, or for failure. Nobody's going to look, who was the C-level that this guy had that attacked? It's your name. So might as well make it yours, and for success or for failure, take ownership of it, because people won't care to hear that, but you know what? I ran it as a democracy and it tanked. Who cares?
Who cares?
You just make it yours.
Yeah.
It's tied to your identity anyway.
Yeah.
So make it yours, for bad or for good. 100%. It should be. I love the idea that a founder is not something you are. Founder is a verb. It's something you do.
You do, yes.
And you are not a founder by offboarding responsibilities. Your C-level, your core team is not a founder with you. You are. So how can you be a founder if you're not doing a founder? I can tell you people in this bootcamp right here, they're not all founders, because they don't all do founder. And I can tell you who they are, not here, but I can already tell who they are. Who's a founder innately, and building a startup comes naturally to who they were born. And I can tell you who needs work to become a founder, because they're not, but they have a startup, so they need to become a founder quick, and who I need to help in this process. I don't know exactly who they are. So a founder is something you do, and you do a startup as well, and that's much closer to a dictatorship than to a democracy.
I really like that. And what you mentioned in your talk today around the book, Extreme Ownership, I think was what it was called. Hopefully you're getting some commission on referring it, but
no, not at all. I mean, I just thought about it today. I usually don't even pitch it. I just thought about it today, I think in consequence of some questions.
So, I mean, you mentioned Extreme Ownership, and that is a Navy SEAL.
Jocko Willink.
It's based on the Navy SEAL. And if you look at the military, that's a dictatorship. And look how effective and how quickly a military operation can go down. There's no time for, let's call it democracy or anything like that. And in this modern world, I think we often try and collaborate too much sometimes, where people actually are looking for decisiveness, regardless of whether the direction's in the right direction or not. Decisiveness, someone who believes what they say what they believe, I think has got so much value as a founder, as you say, as a verb. The decisiveness is a big part of that. Okay, another priority question. Let's call this in a mature business, so that you don't try and worm your way out of this one. But in a mature business, rank investors, product, staff, and client.
Investor, product,
Staff, and client. In a mature business.
Client,
Yeah.
product, staff, investor.
Okay. So the client is the number one priority. Some businesses focus on staff as a core, and obviously if you've got the money, but the customer is always right. The client is always first. I like that answer. In terms of, let's talk about staff though for a second, because what you mentioned in your talk earlier as well was specifically around hiring correctly. I mean, obviously, hiring the right people is probably one of the most critical decisions that you can make as a founder. So what would you say is the most revealing and most important question to ask a particular employee in their interview? If you only could ask them one question, what would reveal the most about them?
Why are you trying to make your life harder?
That's interesting.
And with this question, I feel like you get to understand why they're applying to your project, your startup specifically. You adjust expectations in terms of it's going to be a fucked up world for both you and me now, because you're joining something that's difficult to do. And you also get to watch the nonverbal behavior, because this comes as a surprise. Like, I should be trying to win you over to my company. Why is this guy telling me I shouldn't want to be here if I want an easy life? So I say you accomplish a lot with just one question. So I would say a good question to ask is, so why are you trying to make your life harder exactly? Whether you're unemployed or you have a stable job, why are you trying to make your life harder? I think it is an amazing question to ask somebody in an interview and just see how they react, like non-verbally, emotionally, because they'll try to, like, people hate silences in interviews, so they'll try to say something. And then actually see what the content is out of that question. Like, does your answer match a good understanding of your business, of your culture? Yes or no, let's say. Because not everybody's looking to make, like, if I'm hiring somebody who has 2 cars to pay, 1 house loan, 3 kids, ex-wife, current wife, whatever, a lot to manage, maybe he's not looking to make his life harder. And maybe this is an important question for him to make an informed decision about why he's trying to onboard. But if somebody has the flexibility, the leeway, they make an honest approach trying to join what you're building, then maybe this question will not throw somebody off or not push somebody away. And it's also somebody cool to ask. But I just thought this would probably be a great
It's an amazing question.
Yeah.
Boil the water before they climb in, because then everything is always cooler, because it's never as bad as what you said. It's an amazing question, and it really does reveal, as you say, the person's intention and their character as well, because people can mask their intentions early on and ride it very far into their careers, and that only comes out later. So that's a lovely way to kind of separate things. So on to XFounders. It's very challenging organizing this event. I can see it's so multi-layered in terms of what it is you're trying to do. So what would you say is the biggest challenge around pulling off something like this?
Have you seen that circus act where they're trying to balance plates on these like thin like little sticks? It's like that with 100. And if you're trying to make this stay in balance, this one starts to wobble, then you got to come here and this one starts to wobble. It's like this with, I mentioned earlier, we're coordinating over 100 people coming here through the bootcamp, plus the logistics, plus easily 30 plus vendors and suppliers, plus this super huge, beautiful place, plus travel, plus our own agendas, plus running an accelerator, which is a much broader funnel than what you're seeing here, which is a boot camp, which is one of our, let's say, product lines out of the whole thing, which is an accelerator. So I would say it's hard enough to pass, I'm full of analogies today. It's hard enough to pass like a thread through a needle. This is like passing a rope, like a ship's rope with 1,000 threads through that same needle. And somehow it all comes together and it comes out on the other side. If you'd ask me today, all of the things that need to happen for this huge rope to pass through this impossible needle, I don't know how it got there. The physics defy it. But you're here, like you're watching it happen, like everybody's here. But I would say definitely it's to coordinate all of the moving pieces, like it's the statistical improbability alone of everything that needed to happen for us to be here and for me to say, welcome founders to the XFounders Bootcamp on the first day itself alone is a statistical improbability. So I would say definitely like managing all of the moving parts for this, because it's not, none of them is Herculean, but they add so much complexity and so many layers. It really is like a 1,000-layer cake. Again, an analogy.
I'll give you another one. It's like building a deck of cards on a boat in a storm.
Yes.
We can go on and
all of that. But like just the amount of things that you need to coordinate for all of this to happen is, there's a sentence like I think Abraham Lincoln said, "We do this not because it was easy, but because it was difficult." Something along these lines. I think it was J. Edgar Hoover about the Hoover Dam. Some things we do not because they're easy, but because they're difficult. Something along these lines. I like the version that says, we do this not because it's easy, but because we thought it would be easy. And if we knew how, but this is true for any startup, I guess. 99 out of 100 startups, I guess, if they knew how difficult it was, the founders would not have started it. They went into it, underestimating the complexity, but then they get so committed they can't go back. I think the same applies here. Like, we grossly underestimate the complexity of building something like this every single time, because every single time we also build on the previous bootcamp. So the previous one, simple bootcamp, 30-something people. Second bootcamp, bigger sponsor, reality show on top. So we scaled. Third bootcamp, Bitcoin ecosystem involving government players in El Salvador as well. Huge level of commitment and responsibility. We cannot fail if you have a country's government breathing down your neck, expecting things that you promise you deliver.
Plus guys climbing up volcanoes and with backpacks and all of that, and all the security and legal risk.
100%. Fourth bootcamp, we're here, and it's pop-up city. Not 30 people, 100 plus people. So taking of commitments, like the 100 plus people are going to leave the bootcamp either saying you're shit or saying you're amazing. So every time we grossly underestimate the challenge, but we also, it's not enough because we are founders at heart. We do founder, we act founder. We're never satisfied with what you delivered previously, so we always take up this huge undertaking that's grossly underestimated in terms of effort, but we pull it off. So I would say that's the most difficult part. Definitely all of the complexity and the moving parts and everything that needs to happen for you and I to be having this conversation is a monster in the beast itself. And it's there's always a little bit of how the fuck do we pull this off? But it's here, and it's credit to us, to the team, to everybody who's interested and shows up to also be a part of this. So yeah, really glad that everybody's here to kind of validate the concept.
No, it really is incredible, and the team and what you guys are building here is very special. So I'm very impressed. And like you say, it's such a complicated thing to pull off. So give me one incredibly memorable moment from your boot camps, either this one or previous ones, and one funny moment, please, because I'd love to hear a little bit behind the scenes. What you must have so many stories.
Yes, the last season we did in Bali started with one more startup than we finished. But we don't talk about the tiger episode. We don't talk about it on camera.
Can you find it on YouTube though?
No, not at all. Okay. We burned the footage.
You burned the footage.
Gruesome and ugly. We just don't talk about the missing startup at all.
You ended up with one less startup.
Yes.
Okay, we won't ask questions.
We went to this tiger farm. Things went
very bad.
Yes, we don't talk about it. They forgot to feed tranquilizers to the tigers that day. So we don't go there. But I started by saying, to your amazing question, what people found the most remarkable at a bootcamp, since it's partially so the human connection. I have a very exposed role in the bootcamps, and to make it personal, to give you something actually of me.
Yeah.
I have a very exposed role in the bootcamps, which I'm in touch with people every day, either through one-on-ones or advisory or the workshops or just running the ship.
The emperor with no clothes.
Exactly. Find me in the sauna.
Thank you for wearing clothes, by the way.
Find me in the sauna. You might find me with no clothes. But it's very masked at the same time. It's very guarded because I'm the CEO. I have a role. People come with me with expectations. I give them what they expect. I try for an active management of the energy output, because this is a marathon, it's not a sprint, I've learned how much to give of myself, be it energy, be it personal exposure, so that I can make it to the end of the bootcamp. And I think, or I thought, I did a pretty good job out of guarding myself and my own person. And a very curious episode that speaks to the level of human connection that happens throughout these boot camps is that even myself, thinking I expose myself in a professional way and I guard my personal self. In the end of the last boot camp we did in Bali, it was the last day. And on purpose, I was saying yes to stuff I had, manial stuff, that I had to do, and I was missing the goodbyes when people had to leave. And there was tears, as they always are, and people are like, oh, goodbye, I love you, because real bonding happens here. And there was this one particular startup, Hi Daria, and Vert is the name of the startup. And Daria herself is a very special person in many ways. And she was upset that I was missing the goodbyes and that they were about to leave and I wasn't there. To the point where somebody came up to my room and said, Daria's like, no, she's not leaving before, like she sees it, And I get there and we cry and we hug. And I'm saying, oh, I'm so sorry I missed it. But I got pulled into a call. And she says, Nelson, that's bullshit. And get this. She says, you just don't feel you're important enough in people's lives that you don't assume people will miss you if you're not there. But you are, and people miss you. And I would miss you if I didn't say goodbye. And guess what? Only 2 people have said this about me, and one is my partner for 9 years, the other is my mother. And Daria was able to see through me, like knowing me for just a month, in a position where I thought I was pretty guarded. And she said that to me, and I started fucking crying, and like, holy shit, like, it triggered me in a way that was like, holy fuck, like, you see through me, you know? And I'm not saying this to, here we go. And I'm not saying this to, it's not a story of gratuitous exposure of myself, but one, it fulfills the purpose of telling you the level of human connection that actually happens at the boot camps. And it serves the purpose of your question earlier in this conversation of what's the most valuable thing. Yes, part of it goes through the human connection. So this is an interesting story about like the depth of the connections that happen. Like, I thought I was doing a pretty good job of being guarded. They saw through me at a deepest level.
A woman always knows.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one. I mean, funny stories. For example, in the last bootcamp we did here in El Salvador, we had people go up on different types of challenges, and we had this one of the challenges was, as you mentioned, to hike up the mountain. And one of the founders. This is funny, but also it reports to the spirit that people leave here. So one of these founders, sorry, not in Bali, in El Salvador, we had him go up the mountain. And it was everybody's very simple task to carry a tiny little backpack weighing about maybe 10 kilos of rocks. And it represented, like the rocks represent your startup. So, you're carrying your startup on your back and so forth and so on. And I told this particular founder over 20 times, people are going to ask you to carry their backpack because they know you're also a person of service, as am I. I know people would ask me. I would have a hard time telling them no. I know you're going to have the same issue. Don't carry. It's not your job to carry anybody else's backpack. He says, no, I got this, Nelson, da-da-da. I'm like, I'm serious. Your backpack is metaphorical. Your backpack is mental. Your backpack is saying no to people. Yeah. Aside from the backpack you're actually carrying. Well, 20 times he said, for sure, Nelson, I got this. I won't carry anybody else's backpack. He gets up to the top, 0 backpacks, because somebody asked him to carry his own. Not only did he leave his backpack down the road because he wanted to carry somebody else's, but he also failed at carrying the person's backpack. So he gets there like empty-handed. I'm looking at him like, what the fuck? And he was like, like, you were right, I failed. And this, like, it was funny to me. It's good content. You'll see it on the show. But it was funny to me because, again, we get to know people. And no matter how much I tell you, like, I coach you into doing something, at the end of the day, you're going to do what you're going to do. And it was just like the ending to a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. You could cue the music where he was just like, I have no backpacks, because he said yes to somebody else. Not only did he leave his backpack down the road so he could carry somebody else, but also he failed to do his own. So it's just, funny to me how at the end of the day you're going to do you, and you're going to do what you're going to do, and everything else also that's funny. It's going to be also on the show.
Amazing.
There's some content around interactions with the locals, but I'll leave it for you to also find out about the stories with the locals.
Amazing.
100%.
So amazing story. And any broken bones? Any major injuries?
A tooth was cracked.
A tooth was cracked.
I think a minor injury on the head with no scars also, and a panic attack while scuba diving.
Okay.
The first two related to copious amounts of alcohol. The second one with somebody just being a little bit more ambitious than their own nature allowed, which was good.
Yeah.
But so far so good. Also, maybe 1 or 2 episodes I can't talk about because the paperwork alone would be dreadful.
Yeah.
I'll tell you off camera as well, but yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And did you do the bungee jumping yourself as well?
Yes.
Okay.
They had me do it.
Okay.
I mean,
You have to.
I spent 6 hours coaxing people off a bridge.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me leave the bridge if I didn't jump myself, but I had done it before and I would have done it anyway.
Okay.
So yes, that'll also be in the footage of the show. But 100% I did the bungee jumping myself. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Nelson, in closing, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that very personal information. And you spoke about energy, and having to manage your energy, which is so important, not only for everybody but founders specifically. So where do you get your energy from, and what is your why? Why do you do what you do, and what drives you?
So touching lightly on some, because I'm not like here like, doctor, it's not a therapy session.
Yeah.
As a consequence of having been bullied as a child, to me, being liked and serving is one of my main motivational anchors. And I'm a builder at the end of the day. Again, if I can bring you something and say, I made this for you, love me, is the second part of that I usually don't communicate, is my main anchor. So the ability to give and to deliver something and to enable you somehow is where I get my energy from. So I'm tired. I sleep on average 4 hours a day. It's fine. I wake up in the morning. I see people connecting. I see teams brainstorming. I'm up doing a workshop with people. I'm giving one-on-one coaching or advisory sessions. I feel like I'm adding something to you. That's what I'm getting my energy from. I would say, this is it. It's about delivering. It's about giving something to others. It's where I get my energy from. It's about providing impact. That's why I've always had side gigs, advising, consulting for smaller startups, for founders. Even when I had full-time jobs at major centralized exchanges or a major DeFi protocol, working in corporate as well. I get my energy from giving, you know? So if I see you happy, if I'm adding something to you, and you're doing something awesome, and I'm but a small part of that makes my day. So yeah, that's my main driver, my main motivation.
So you get your energy from people and from being with people rather than being in isolation or on your own necessarily.
I recharge by being in isolation, but this is where I feel my energy is better spent.
Okay, so the people are the sunlight, and the recharging on your own is the battery pack. For
Yes.
Okay.
I need me time. That's why I always start the day with 2 hours of me time, always, because it's good for me to also feel for control and for discipline. The day can be chaotic and draining, and I can spend my whole day just serving and doing nothing for myself. If in the first 2 hours of my day, I meditate a little bit, I work out, and I read or just call home, I owned the first 2 hours of the day. Everything else, I can happily volunteer because it did not overlap into me time. So I wake up at 6, from 6 to 8, it's me time. Anything after 8, I'm good, I'm here, I'm present, I've done me. If it starts to overlap, I start feeling a little bit angsty, yeah? Also for the discipline. Again, feeling in control for me is important. If I have discipline, I feel like very literally I have freedom. If I start my day staying in bed because it's cold and raining and it's cozy, I'm not really sure if I chose to stay in bed or I was just a slave to the coziness and the sloth and just, it's so warm in here. If it's 6 a.m. and it's cold, in Bali it's never cold, but in Europe, if it's cold and it's raining in January and it's 6 a.m. and nighttime and I'm out there running, for sure it was a choice. Because naturally I'm not meant to be here, but at least I know for a fact I chose to be there. So for me, this act of having discipline as an act of freedom also helps me give more of myself at peace, because I fulfilled what I wanted to do. So if I'm here talking to you, if I'm talking to the founders, whatever it is that my day asks me to do, one, I do it because I want to, and secondly, I've done what I serve myself, so I can be here more happily giving to you as well.
Amazing. And if you weren't paid for something, what is your passion outside? What could you do all day without getting paid for it outside of work?
I would take pictures for National Geographic and travel the world doing that.
Well, you're very close to doing that. We're
yes,
taking pictures.
Literally.
So
I travel the world building with amazing founders and amazing startups. That's close enough, and it's highly rewarding. If ever I'm not doing that, I'll be traveling the world nonetheless, but maybe just taking pictures.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Nelson, thank you so much.
Once again.
Yeah, all the best for the rest of the
Thank you so much.
bootcamp. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for taking interest.
Thank you guys. Ciao, ciao.